hypocrisy ruins spiritual training. Okay, and we're going to get into definition for what hypocrisy is. So in the background of your mind, be thinking about what does hypocrisy mean. Okay, we'll get to it in a second. But it ruins training, kind of like this. This is a popular phrase: you can't outwork a bad diet. What does that mean? Can anybody explain what that phrase means? Or have you ever heard that phrase before?
I kind of disagree with that phrase.
Okay, you kind of disagree. All right, maybe we should open it up for debate. All right. Sometimes people who are like trying to get more fit and having a harder time maybe losing some weight or whatever, there's this phrase: you can't outwork a bad diet. And maybe it's not even a true phrase, okay? But what it means is that if your diet, so let's say somebody's trying to get in better shape, trying to maybe lose some weight or something. If you have a super bad diet, you can't work out enough to lose the weight. That's what that means, okay? For example, right? Let me give you an example. Let's say we had a small McDonald's meal, maybe a 6-piece nugget meal, okay? 6-piece nuggets, medium fry, medium Coke. To work that off, to burn off those calories, you would need to jog 10 miles.
You mean like the deficit?
To burn off those calories from lunch. Okay. Now, now, I don't know about you, but if I were to eat like a 6 nuggets, a medium fry, and a medium Coke, you gonna be full on that? Some of you might be. I would not be full on that. All right. So now you want to jack up the calories from there. We can talk about the quarter pounder or a Big Mac. It would be even more. Okay. A donut.
Just thinking of donuts.
One donut. Okay, one donut, you gotta jog 5 miles to work it off. Okay, no, it depends on the size of the donut and it depends on your own weight. Okay, if you are a smaller person already, you have to jog further. Okay, so me jogging a mile. Okay.
Just kidding.
Me jogging a mile, I would burn more calories than Evelyn jogging a mile. Okay, why? Because I weigh more, and to move this massive body of mine, right? It takes more energy to do that. Okay, so all these numbers I'm giving you, it kind of depends. Okay, so the point here, I'm not trying to give you a diet or a workout lesson, but this phrase has a spiritual analogy. Just like it's really, really, really hard to outwork a bad diet, or maybe some people say you can't even do it. A little bit of hypocrisy really ruins your spiritual training. Does that make sense? So just like a jelly donut is a really bad idea for a bodybuilder, okay? Nobody's arguing that it tastes good or bad, okay, all right? But if your goal is to win a bodybuilding competition, a jelly donut will not help you. In fact, you'll have to work extra hard, harder than you realize, to burn that off. Well, a little hypocrisy, just a little hypocrisy ruins spiritual training. Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 1. I don't know how much time you guys have spent in the book of Ecclesiastes, but it says this: dead flies make the perfumer's ointment give off a stench. So a little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. Okay, I guess back in the day, all right, if you were a perfumer making perfume, I guess maybe they had problems with dead flies. I don't know, okay, but you could imagine this. Now we don't, but back in the day, you could imagine if you were a perfumer, flies probably would not help your cause. In fact, maybe what this is saying is just a few dead flies in your perfume might ruin the whole batch. Okay? Same thing. A little bit of folly outweighs wisdom. Okay? Think of a wise person. Somebody who's wise but does one foolish thing. Kind of ruins some stuff. Okay? Depending how foolish the person was. One foolish thing could throw somebody in prison, for example. So a little folly can outweigh wisdom and honor. Okay? Does that make sense? Kind of a little bit? Even though dead flies and perfume doesn't really, huh?
It's very gross.
Yeah, it's kind of gross. Another verse similar to that is from Galatians 5, okay, where Paul's writing and he says, you know what, a little yeast works through the whole batch of dough. In fact, this is said maybe three different times in the scriptures. Okay, a little bit of yeast goes through the whole batch of dough. So, for example, if you sprinkle a little bit of yeast in here and then knead the dough, the whole dough is going to rise with the yeast. Okay, and look at what Jesus said here, be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. Okay. So in Luke 12:1, Jesus is telling his disciples, hey guys, we need to be on guard. You need to be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees. And the yeast of the Pharisees is hypocrisy. And hypocrisy can work through your whole self. Just a little bit works through the whole batch. You gotta watch out for it. Okay? So these are all kind of introduction warning verses about hypocrisy. What in the world is hypocrisy? What's that? Oh, well, I'm so glad you're...
This specific slide is thinking like National Geographic. Like under the sea.
Oh, I'm also thinking just like the transitions.
Oh, I'm experimenting with those, but that's not the point. Okay, the point. What'd you learn in youth group today? Slide transitions were really cool. All right, so what is hypocrisy? I told you at the beginning. Try to be, thinking about what is it. Anybody have any ideas? That's okay.
Saying something and doing another.
Oh. Yeah, being a hypocrite, saying one thing, but behaving different than what you say. Yeah, that's hypocrisy.
Telling someone to not do something and then going and doing that.
Totally. Tell somebody, don't do this, and then you go do it, right? Yeah. Yeah. Any other? What's that? Ooh, pot calling the kettle black. Right. It's basically very similar. You're saying, oh, that's bad, but you go and do the same thing.
Or like having a goal and then going to do something that's like against that goal.
Oh, having a goal, but going to do something against that goal. Yeah. Okay. Ooh, talking the talk, but not walking the talk. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's what hypocrisy is. The Greek word from the Bible, hypocrite, is essentially actors. No. That does not mean taking a role in a play, in a Christmas program. Oh, we can't do it anymore. No. Thank you. That's a good point. But what do you do when you are an actor?
Pretend to be something.
You're pretending to be someone you're not. Now, if you're in a play, it's fine. Okay? Everybody knows you're pretending, right? Nobody, if you're in a Shrek play, nobody's like, dude, Shrek's real. No, everybody knows you're pretending.
Tell that to the people at Shrekfest.
Okay. So, hypocrisy, you're actually assuming a role, and you're trying to fool people. You're actually being different than you actually are. Okay. So watch this. I want you gotta watch this transition. Okay, the blue stays, but watch.
Oh! Dang!
All right, is that good? All right.
Oh, hey, I actually know this.
So hypocrisy is pretending to be something you are not. This guy is not a real Jedi.
How dare you?
No!
And I hate to break it to you, but he's a double hypocrite because Jedis aren't even real. Okay, so he's like, woo, he's gone. All right? So pretending to be something you are not is what hypocrisy is. Jesus said, beware, be careful, watch out for the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, which is hypocrisy. A little bit of hypocrisy is going to go through the whole batch of dough. Okay? Just like you can't outwork a bad diet, a little bit of hypocrisy, guys, will really ruin your spiritual diet. Okay, your spiritual training.
What?
Wow.
Last week.
All right. Oh yeah, this is a little video clip. But first, Matthew 23. Okay. And he's an actor, by the way. All right, anyway.
What?
All right, Matthew 23, the whole chapter is basically Jesus rebuking Pharisees and Sadducees. He's like, man, you scribes, you Pharisees, hypocrites. The whole chapter, Matthew 23. I took parts of it out of here. We're looking at verses 13 through 33. Look at what Jesus says here. And think about what his tone of voice could have been like. Sometimes in our minds, we think of like Jesus as this like mellow guy. It's just peaceful and stuff. Look at what Jesus says here. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. You shut the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. For you neither enter yourselves, nor allow those who would enter to go in. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you travel across sea and land to make a single convert. And when he becomes a convert, you make him twice as much a child of hell as you are. Oh my goodness. Most people on planet Earth never picture Jesus saying anything like this. Can you imagine that? You guys, you go on your missionary trips across the sea and across land. You're willing to you do all this effort to make one convert, but when you succeed, you make him twice a child of hell as you are. Oof. That's like intense. Is that intense? That's intense.
It's got a little kick.
Yeah, it's got a little kick in it. He's not even done. The next thing he says, I skipped a little bit, but woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like whitewashed tombs, which outwardly appear beautiful, but inside you're full of dead people's bones and all uncleanness. So you outwardly appear righteous to others, but inside you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. You serpents, you brood of vipers, how are you to escape being sentenced to hell? That's intense, okay? So, I don't know. It seems to me that Jesus might be a little opinionated about hypocrisy. In fact, I can't think of too many things that make Jesus more ticked off than hypocrisy. So the Pharisees, pretending to be righteous, how does that make somebody a convert, twice a son of hell, twice a child of hell that they are? What do you think?
Not your question, but like,
Oh,
do the Pharisees like know that they're wrong, or do they like think, like do they like actually think that they're like right?
A little bit.
hard to speak to every single Pharisee. Probably a little of both. And then there's some like Nicodemus. Yep, in John chapter 3, Nicodemus came to Jesus. And Joseph of Arimathea was also one of them. So some of the Pharisees were convicted and they became believers actually. But a lot of the Pharisees were responsible for wanting Jesus arrested too. So probably, they weren't every single one, but in general, they were hypocrites as a whole. Yeah.
Do you think Nicodemus went to heaven?
Do I think Nicodemus went to heaven? As far as I know, I think the scripture would indicate that he probably did. But, we don't have record of him actually like repenting and putting faith, but we do have some clues. So, yeah, it's a reasonable enough of an assumption. Yeah.
How do people become Pharisees?
School, and then there's like an apprenticeship. You would like follow the Pharisee around and like,
you have to be a guy.
learn his ways and be a guy, But yeah, they knew their Bibles very, very well. More than anybody in the planet. You know, they knew their Bibles better than anybody.
Except for us.
Okay, well, except Jesus. Okay, and when I say Bibles, of course, that means the Old Testament. But okay. All right. So yeah, intense. Jesus did not like hypocrisy at all. Here's the portion of the Sermon on the Mount where Jesus is teaching his disciples not to be hypocrites. Okay, look at what he said. Matthew 6, right at the beginning, he says, beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them. For then you'll have no reward from your Father in heaven. Okay, so practicing your righteousness. What kind of righteousness is Jesus talking about here? Well, there's some examples. Matthew 6 is full of examples. Later he goes on and says this. Thus, when you give to the needy, okay, when you're giving something to the poor, don't sound a trumpet like the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, so that they could be praised by others. So when you're giving something to the poor, don't be like, hey, look at me, you know, and go and do that. Instead, you know, he said, truly, I say to you, they've received their reward. That's all the reward they're going to get, the recognition of people. But instead, you, when you give to the needy, don't even let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret can reward you. Okay? Now, literally, you know, you're not going to be able to, you know, what's my left hand doing? I have no idea. You know, you're not gonna really literally be able to do that. But this just means, hey, I missed something funny.
Sorry, it wasn't that funny.
You know, actually, I don't think it was that funny.
Okay. The point here, giving in secret. You know, guys, when somebody, think about what goes on in the world. When somebody gives a big donation, they often make it known, don't they?
Frederick Meyer Gardens.
Oh, the Frederick Meyer Gardens. Why is it called the Frederick Meyer Gardens? It's in memory of Frederick Meyer's gift to build.
Or
the
Meyer.
Okay. If somebody gives a bunch of money to a hospital, the building is named after the person.
What?
Okay. Now,
I was thinking Mr. Beast.
What do you mean?
Mr. Beast Hospital.
Mr. Beast Hospital. Great. All right.
What are we getting at with this?
The point here, guys, what Jesus is teaching here is revolutionary. Like, what? Give in secret? What? And what is Jesus getting at here? When you get a, hey, good job, wow, you're so generous. Jesus is like, you know what, that's all the reward you're going to get. But if you give in secret, you're not going to get that reward. Instead, how will you get rewarded? Your Father in heaven. So hypocrisy comes down to what reward matters to you? People saying good things about you? Or your Heavenly Father saying good things about you? What matters the most to you? The answer to that question will determine how much hypocrisy you're willing to allow yourself to do. Here's another one he says, when you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, that they may be seen by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you pray, go into your room, shut the door, pray to your Father who's in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. So all this stuff Jesus is telling to his disciples in the Sermon on the Mount. He's like, don't do your righteous stuff to get approval of people. Do it to get the approval of your Father. What do you guys think? Any thoughts on that? Does that make sense? Good, good. All right, Paul said something similar here in Colossians 3 to slaves. Okay, slaves, if you're a slave, obey your earthly masters in everything. When I think about this, employees, obey your employers in everything. And look at this, not only when their eye is on you, not only when they're watching, And to curry their favor, to like make them like you, maybe get a raise, right? But with sincerity of heart and reverence for the Lord, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. Since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. So look, reward, reward, reward. You see that? Hey, so if you're a slave, work really hard to get rewarded by God. So, you can overcome hypocrisy by settling these two questions firmly in your heart. Okay? Where do you want your approval to come from? Okay, so there's two questions that if you settle this matter, if you settle this in your heart, you won't be a hypocrite. You won't be an actor. You won't be pretending to be something you're not. Number one, what rewards matter to me? What rewards count in your book? Do you want to be well thought of by people? Or do you want God to say well done? Right? Where is your well done coming from? Remember that song we sing, right? Well done, well done. That's just, I lived my whole life to hear you say, well done. Is that true? Or are you hypocritical? Right? This is huge. That's a big question. What rewards matter to you? Number two, what about recognition? What recognition do I care about? Okay, what recognition do I care about? This is so important, guys. It's huge. Now, remember in Matthew 6, Jesus said, don't just do your righteous things to be seen by other people. Right? But listen, he also said this. Let your light shine before people so that they will see your good works and glorify your Father. Not glorify you, right? As Christians, aren't people supposed to see our good works? Yes, they're certainly not supposed to see a bunch of bad works coming from us, right? They're supposed to see our good works. Guys, it is so dangerous then. Once they see your good works, where does the glory go? To you or to God? That's what's at issue here. What recognition do you really care about? Do you want God to get the glory or you? It's huge. Check out Hebrews 11. We talked about rewards last week a little bit. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, I forget who, but there was this question like, well, how much should rewards motivate us? And so I wanted to include this verse today. Hebrews 11, verse 6. Without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe, number one, that he exists, and number two, that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. We need to believe that God is a rewarder, and we need to work for his rewards. He wants us to get rewarded by him. Another scripture like this, John 5. Jesus is talking here, and he's talking, I can't remember if he's talking to the Pharisees, but he says, look, how can you guys believe? You guys can't even believe. How can you believe? Because you're accepting glory from other people, but you're not seeking the glory that comes from God. You're looking for other people to praise you and thank you and glorify you, but you're not looking for God to be glorifying you, God to be thanking you. Isn't that huge? That's a huge verse. Jesus is even saying, how can you believe if your rewards are misplaced? And then the last verse here, Jesus said in Revelation 22:12. Toward the end of the whole end of the Bible, these are one of the last words that we hear from Jesus. He says, look, I am coming soon. My what? My reward is with me, and I will give to each person according to what they have done.
What does he mean when he says I'm coming soon? Like the word soon, because he also says it will take a long time.
Yes.
So what
Like
does
it
he
has
mean,
like 2,000 years.
Yes. Probably similar to one of the things that we heard in the sermon today, but 1 Peter or 2 Peter? I think it's 2 Peter 3, where it says, brothers, don't forget this one thing, that the Lord is not slow in coming back, as some people think, but he's patient. He's waiting. Because with the Lord, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day.
How does that work?
How does it work?
He's on a different time scale.
There
Well-
is no, God has no time. There's no reference.
Well, think of it this way.
Yes, that nerd
A
thing.
2-hour car trip. Okay, let's say you're taking a 2-hour trip to somewhere. Okay.
Ohio.
Oh, wait.
To Traverse City. Okay. Lake Ann. We're going to Lake Ann. Okay. 2.5 hours. Okay. Now, to you guys, it seems like long-ish, but not terribly long. But to a 3-year-old sitting there for 2.5 hours, it seems like a long time. Why is that?
Their attention span.
They haven't been alive.
Because they haven't been alive long enough. So to a 5-year-old, 2 hours is a bigger fraction of their life. To a 17-year-old, 2 hours is a smaller fraction of their life. To a 50-year-old, time flies. All right, today, I mean, it just, if you've ever heard your parents say, man, it just seems like time just goes faster and faster. And then you hear your grandparents say, time just goes faster and faster. It's true. It's like so true. Like, where's the time go? So like, yeah, you'll see. But I think that's part of it. Not to go on too long, but I think that's part of it. God is eternal. So a couple thousand years to God, nothing. To us, it's like, ooh, that's a long time. So I think that's part of the answer. That's at least how I think about it, if that makes sense. Right? What do you guys think about rewards?
Is it bad to look towards like the things you do and want the reward? Because it's almost like selfish wanting a reward for yourself. Is that wrong?
Wanting a reward from God?
Yeah, but like in general, like doing the things, seeking the reward, like is that almost bad? Like selfish, seeking the reward rather than.
Well, it seems, if I'm reading Hebrews 11 right, that believing that God rewards you is a big part of faith. So I would say, and given what Jesus said in Matthew 6, hey, if you do this, you won't get rewarded from your Father. It seems like he's using rewards to motivate us, right? That's what it seems like. So it'd be real hard to say, oh yeah, but seeking the rewards that come from God is bad. Well then Matthew 6 doesn't make much sense. So he wants us, or why would he say my reward is with me and I'm gonna reward you? Yeah.
What kind of rewards will there be?
What kind of rewards will there be?
Gems on your crown.
Gems on your crown?
Yeah, right?
I don't know exactly, how much of that is
A bigger room in the apartment of God.
bigger room in
That
the
would not
apartment
be
of God. Maybe being close to God, closer, I don't know. Obviously there are, all these things are in the Bible, right? Like jewels, things like that, but we're probably not going to care as much about jewels in heaven necessarily, so I'm not 100% sure what exactly all the rewards are, but fellowship, closeness with God is like key. Like that's at the top of my can't wait for list.
Will we have like friends and have like will we be closer with some people versus other people, or is that not gonna be how it works?
Remember
Well, I
people
mean,
who
we'll
were
be spending
on
most of our time worshiping God.
Earth?
Yeah,
No, but
that's
like
tough.
when you were on
That's,
Earth.
huh?
Do I remember people who knew on Earth? And like what their relationships was?
Seems like it. Why do I think that though? Well, I do know we're not going to be married in heaven. We're not going to be marriage. Jesus said you're not going to be married or given in marriage. Several times in the Bible, it's like you're going to rest with your fathers. You know, that phrase is used where you're going to die and be buried and rest with your fathers. So it's like, huh. Seems like there's some
Isn't
sort
your
of.
father's like God?
I think it's like with your ancestors, with people who have died in your family before you. So it makes me think that there will be some relationship maintained. Lazarus and the rich man, when he was in hell, Lazarus, the beggar Lazarus, not the other one. And yeah, sorry. There's two. Sorry, there's a beggar named Lazarus. Jesus told the story, and the rich man died and was in torment. And he said to Abraham, "Hey Abraham, can you send Lazarus to my father's house so my brothers don't come here too?" So he evidently had some memory. I don't know. That's kind of a quick answer. Yes.
I don't think you can just believe in God and do things like in secret for the rewards. I think you have to do it because you actually want to have a relationship with God. Because if you're only gonna be friends with someone because
they're rich.
yeah, because they're rich.
Right.
If you're only gonna be friends with them because of that, it's not really like a real relationship.
And you're not going to be a real friend. Yeah, totally. The relationship is the number one reward, right? We are children of God, adopted. Like that is the hugest thing. So part of his family is the reward. Yeah, totally right. All right, quick warning signs of hypocrisy. Warning signs of hypocrisy.
DANGER, shortcut.
Yeah. How about this? I can't say this or do this in church. Okay? In other words, I have heard adults. And they're in a conversation, they're like, "Oh, why?" I can't really say what I'm thinking. I'm in church right now. Whoopsie. Okay? Now, my question then is this. You mean you're different? You're different in church than you are at work? What does that sound like to you? I would call that a danger, warning sign of hypocrisy. You're different around people at church. Why would somebody be different around people at church? They must want people at church to think they're great. Get that little approval going. How about this? Would I tell this joke to my parents or youth pastor? Or Jesus? Oh. If I wouldn't tell a joke to anybody, why am I telling that joke? To me, that's a danger of hypocrisy. I'll tell it to you, but I wouldn't tell it to them because I want them to. It's a danger. It's a warning sign. Right? You should be. I mean, would you expect me to tell a joke to some people? But I wouldn't tell you that because, like, what would you think? Would you think that's cool? Your answer should be no. That would not be cool. All right. Well, then it shouldn't be cool for you. Right? How about this? Would I listen to this song with my parents, my youth pastor, or with Jesus? Now, don't we believe, if we're a Christian, you have the Holy Spirit in you. You're listening to a song with Jesus, whether you like it or not. Right? Like, what do we really believe here? Right? I mean, are we children of God? Are we His? Is He with us all the day? Well, that's something to consider, right? Would I share this post, video, or picture with my parents, youth pastor, or Jesus? Just a thought for you guys, okay? Hopefully, that's what totally not hypocritical would be, is, you know what? I'm not different at this place than I am at this place. You know, I'm a consistent person. I'm not acting one way here so that these people approve of me. Act a different way here so that these people approve of me. I am acting here in such a way so that God approves of me. Over here, God's approval matters. God's approval matters in every situation that I'm in. Wouldn't you say that that's the ultimate way to kick hypocrisy out of our lives? What?
No, I was just
Oh,
myself.
so what do you think? These can be kind of intense to think about. But that's what we're on planet Earth for, right? To work out these things and go, huh. Yeah.
Is it bad if we act different around different friends because they're different, so we do different things together?
Well,
Or if
you
you
know,
have like a different
I might-
relationship with them. Like if you're like not close to them, I would be different with them than I am with someone I'm close with.
again, right, I'm probably not gonna bare my soul and ask for counsel to somebody who's ungodly and doesn't even know Jesus. So, you know, in that respect, yeah, and I'm not gonna force this guy to play basketball with me who hates basketball. You know, well, I'm a basketball player everywhere I go. That's not what we're talking about, right? Right? But we're talking about things that really matter to Christ. We're not going to pretend to be a better Christian over here and allow ourselves to engage in stuff that Jesus hates over here because they hate Jesus too. So I'll just go ahead and do this for them. You know, that's more the type of thing. It's not like, well, these people are, you know, Italian, so I'm going to eat Italian food with them. That's fine. You know, that is not, you hypocrite, you're supposed to eat burgers every day. No, that's not what we're talking about here, right? You understand the difference here? That's why I picked things. I picked things like, you know, it's not like every post. Please don't start sending me every post, right? You know what I'm saying? But it's, you know what I'm talking about. If there's a post that would be morally questionable, and you'll laugh about it, you'll joke about stuff with your friends, but you wouldn't joke about it with Jesus because you don't think Jesus would approve. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about. Does that make sense? Because Jesus is with us, isn't he? Okay. Yeah. Good questions. Good questions. More questions? More thoughts?
Oh, wait a second.
All right. All right. Well, hopefully this gets you thinking a little bit. Because ultimately, we want Jesus to reward us and reward us with his friendship, with his relationship, right? These are not things, you don't do things to get forgiven. We're talking about forgiving people. We're forgiven by grace through faith, not works. But then now that we're forgiven, do we behave like forgiven people here and not here? That's what we're talking about. We're talking about behaving consistently with what we believe. All right, let's pray and ask God for help.